Hey guys! So today I'm going to be showing you a little bit of a virtual tour of the CST Theater. Our theater is not quite a full theater, but we do have a stage and a backstage area, and we also have a full lighting and sound system. So today I'm going to show you what those look like and where they are and what you guys will have the opportunity to do whenever we come back in person. So hang tight and I will give you a little bit of a tour. All right, guys, I am currently sitting on the stage in our theater. So if you are ever performing, this is what your view would be. If you notice back in the back, those lights on either side of that wall, those are our really big, really bright lights. We don't use those too terribly often because they are super bright, and in this theater, it kind of overwhelms. But there are times when we need spotlight effects and things like that, so we'll be using those during that time. If you look right up here at these, that long line that has a bunch of different lights on it, those are called LED lights. Those are the ones that we use more often, and they can change to any color we set them to, which is really, really awesome. Just a couple of years ago, we got a whole new set of these, and we are actually one of the only middle schools in the district that has a full set. If you look right up here, it's a little bit dark, but those circles that you see up in the ceiling, those are what are called can lights, and those were set here whenever the theater was first built. So anytime you have an assembly or something like that, those are probably what are on. They're not very bright, but they do the job. And then up here you have our projector. If you notice on either side of the projector, those big boxes, those are our speakers for this space. They do a wonderful job, and they actually connect all the way back there in the back to our booth. We have wiring that runs through the system, and that's how we get all of our lights and sound equipment to work. If you take a look right up here in the exact middle of the screen, you'll probably have to look really closely. There's a line that's hanging from the ceiling, and on the bottom, it looks like a little fish hook. It's right in the exact middle of the screen. What that is it's one of our hanging microphones. We have a couple of those. We have them set up. You can see, I'm going to just scroll over. There's one right next to our projector, and then there's more over on the other side. Those are what we typically use whenever we do plays. They are really good about picking up all sound. So not only do they pick up what is being said, but they also pick up things like footsteps and backstage noise. So that's something that I will train you guys on if you do outside of school performances. It'll help you know how to do that without making a bunch of noise. All right, we are going to head back to the booth so that I can show you what all goes on back there. All right, guys, I am standing at the back of the auditorium right now. If you look right under the projector, that's where I was just sitting to show you all of the lights and sound stuff. So I am now standing at the very back behind all of our seats, and we are going to walk into our booth area. The booth is super, super duper cool, and students must have permission to enter. That's because the stuff that's in here is super expensive. And if you don't have the proper training, it can really be damaged. And that's just not a fun situation to be in. So if you look at this really big box right here in the middle of your screen, that is our sound system. That controls all of our microphones. It controls all of, like whenever we play music or anything like that, everything goes through that big box. And that is all run using this board. This is what's called a soundboard. And if you notice the little switches on the bottom row, the little white ones, those are what we use to adjust the different sound volumes. So I'm going to zoom in on this. If you notice the labels, I've got like Rin, Ariel, Willard, and then the back and front. Those are the different microphones. All of the ones that say front and back are those hanging microphones that I showed you up on the stage. All of the ones on the left that have the names on them are the actual headsets or the ones that you hold. And then these over here are the ones that are the handhelds. and they have different colors that correspond to the different microphones. Then if we walk right over here next to it, we have our lighting board. This is one of the high-tech boards, which we are super, super, super grateful to have. And if you look right down here, you can see all the different colors on this screen. And then if we go to this color wheel, we have the option to actually change all of the colors. I know it's a little bit bright for you guys, but what that looks like is it's like a rainbow effect. And so we can choose any color on the rainbow. Here in just a minute, I'm going to show you what those lights look like. But first, take a look over on this side. These work very similarly to the sound things. They just adjust things. So each one of these numbers lines up with those LED lights. Over here, right in the middle of your screen, that's what they look like from the back. So each one of those has a specific number, and it runs all the way down into our lighting system, and each one of those knobs adjusts the different lights. So I'm going to get that set up, and then I will show you what that looks like. All right, guys, I have the lights turned off in the auditorium so that you can take a look and see what those different knobs do. So I'm going to show you right down here what I'm doing. First, I'm going to pick a light that I want to turn on. I'm just going to choose this one. It's over on the left side of the stage. And there we go. It's just popped up. If I wanted to change the color of that light, I would just come over here to this little lighting bar, and I would pick a color. So I'm going to pick green. I know it's a little hard to see, but it now has turned green up on the stage. If I wanted to turn that light off, all that I would do is use this little slip, and we're going to just pull it down. And if you notice, as I pull it down, I'm going to go really slowly. It gets darker and darker and darker until it's all the way off. I can do that with every single one of these lights. The only ones that don't work with this color are the ones that are hanging that I showed you at the very beginning. The ones that I told you were the big ones that are super bright. So I am going to pull on a couple of those so you can see what I'm talking about. This one right here is kind of the one that we use as a spotlight. You can see how in the middle it's really, really bright and it looks white on camera. That's because of how bright these lights are. And if we have all of those pulled up, you start to see just how bright those things are compared to something over on the left. So the right are those really big lights, the left are our LEDs. So the LEDs typically are a little bit more neutral, and in this space that's not always a bad thing. All right, I'm gonna hop back over to our soundboard now, and I'm gonna turn on the mics really quick so that you can hear what they sound like. All right, I have our microphone system set up now. So if you notice this one right here in the middle that says good WL, that just means good wireless. And that microphone looks like this. You probably have seen people using these all over the place. They are very, very common. But I'm just going to speak into it. I have it at kind of a neutral volume, and then I'll show you what it sounds like as we go up and down. So up here in the middle, those speakers are what you're hearing this through, okay? As I talk, it becomes really loud, and it kind of sounds like it's echoing a little bit. That's because we have so many speakers, and they are kind of like a surround sound. And so as I'm talking, all of those speakers are projecting out sound to you. As I walked in just a second ago, some of you might have noticed these big, giant contraptions that were sitting over on the side. These are our manual spotlights. So they are the biggest, baddest thing in this theater. This one right here that you're looking at, we call Big Bertha. She is our big spotlight. We can do almost anything we want with her, and she will be able to handle it. We also have this little guy over here. He is almost just as strong. He's just not quite as big. So his light isn't quite as bright as Big Bertha's. So I'm going to turn her on so that you can hear what she sounds like. I'm not sure how it's going to sound on camera, so brace yourself. It might be a little bit loud. But there's just this switch over the side that we turn on. And now, if you look past her out into the auditorium, you have that light. We use her for all kinds of different colors. So over here on the side, you have these color switches. They just pull either direction, and then they change the color of the lights. So I'm going to show you both in one frame. So if I were to take the blue off, it becomes white again, and I could change it to red. So that is kind of how she works. And then she also has this little handle down here that helps us direct her. So as I grab it, I can pull it up, I can pull it down, and that directs where our lights are for that time. We also can make her kind of use bigger or smaller lights depending on how we want her. So I'm going to show you guys how that works. Give me just 1 second so I can walk around to the front. All right, if we were to start a show and we didn't want this big light to be on the stage, we would just take this little knob right here, we would turn it. So that would make it to where there's no light on the stage. And then as we just turn it a little bit, you can see how it looks almost like an eyelid opening and closing. That is how that works. And what we don't want is we don't want it to be something where the audience can tell. So we would just turn this other little knob all the way down until it's just a little bitty circle. And we would use on the right, there's this little black switch. So we will use that to turn the light actually on and off. We can make it dimmer or brighter as we need it. So as we go through, we would just turn that on, make it really big, or if we didn't want that on, we could just turn it off completely. How that works is inside of Big Bertha, there are these different like slabs that lean down in front of the light. So I'm going to show you inside of her. You can't see very well, but that thing that you're seeing right there is the glass. And that's really important because it helps protect from the heat. But behind that glass, you have those different sliders that are the different colors. We call those lighting gels. Anything that changes a color of a light is a lighting gel. Our LEDs don't need gels because they are already set up to work with those without gels. But for our spotlights and for our big lights in the back of the auditorium, those are very important. And then same thing down here for these knobs. These just control a little slider on the inside that opens and closes, and that is how you see that light getting bigger or smaller. Our little guy over here works pretty similarly, but those knobs on the top do some different things. If you notice right here in the middle, we've got those same little sliders that we have on the side of Big Bertha, and those change the colors of our light. I have lots of people ask me where we store everything, and that is just our backstage area. If you look right through here, you can see our auditorium. It's just the door in the back of the auditorium. And then you go in, there's another door that leads to this backstage magical world. This is where we store all of our set pieces. You can kind of see up here where we have like desks and chairs and anything big. And then we also have all kinds of storage for different things. These boxes are what we used for Footloose last year. They were made by our stagecraft class. And they are kind of just in a pile right now because we have not had time to sort them yet. But as you walk further back, you can see that we have all these different platforms. We have all of this cool different stuff. We have little rolling platforms that we can use for different furniture moving and stuff like that. And as we go further back, we have more storage. This stuff back here is usually pre-built things. So they're things that we can just attach to something like wheels or put on different platforms and bring out to our stage. We also have a bunch of giant cardboard back here that we use for different painting and set pieces. We also have a lot of props stored back here. That is just in our props closet, and we have some different drawers with different items in them. We are currently working on getting these organized into more of a efficient system, but this is going to be where you're going to look anytime that you need props. We also have some extra paint storage back here, and we also have some in the classroom. So anytime that you need extra paint or I send you back to the back of the stage, this is where you'll go for that. We don't really have many tools. We kind of just use this as our paint storage, but some of those up here have different handles and stuff like that. And the sponges, this is where all of that is stored. We are back in the auditorium, standing in the back. On the other side is the booth. So right here's the booth. And then if you just walk over, you see all of our plaques. And then you see these big cabinets back here. I have a couple of them open right now. Usually they are going to be locked because we have some stuff back here that we don't want everybody to have access to. But we do have some more storage over here for our props. And if you take a look at this big cabinet right here, this is where we store all of our theater power tools. So we have all of our drills, all of our saws, everything like that in here. We also use Mr. Haynes's room for stagecraft as we need it. He's got some of our bigger saws and our bigger equipment. So as we need to, we hop over into his room so we can cut the bigger pieces of wood and things like that. We also use this as storage for some of our extra costume pieces. These are pieces that we don't use quite as often. And then also our shoes. We have all kinds of shoes stored in here. And as we need them, we just come in and pull them out. But we do have a bigger costume closet in the classroom, and that's where I'm going to be taking you guys next. This is one of the set pieces that Stagecraft built last year for Footloose. It's a little bit falling apart because it's been hot in here over the summer, but you can see these lockers are not quite assembled, but they would just be nailed to this big platform. And then back here you can see all of the different wood that goes right beneath this big barbecue sign. This is just set on wheels and it rolls really easy. So we would have put the lockers on the back side of this and it would have been really easy to just turn it around so that we could see both sides depending on what scenes we needed. All right, guys, you have reached our classroom. This is the theater classroom, room 515. Right next to us, we have this board. It's where we have all of our announcements for the theater department as a whole. So if you're not taking one of the classes, this is where you would check. You can also log into this Google Classroom. The code is actually a little bit different, but you can log into it and that's where we will also give you more announcements. We're gonna go inside the classroom. Obviously, you guys are not here, so all of our chairs are up, but this is what you would walk into whenever you walk into our theater classroom. All right, guys, as promised, we are now back into the dark room of the theater classroom. This is actually what we have converted into our costume closet. And those of you who had me last year are going to be shocked at how clean it is in here. But over the summer, I got a chance to come in and organize. So this is where we store all of our major costuming. We have all of our dresses, all of our different coats, all of our vests, everything that you can think of we have in here. And if we don't have it, then we either buy it or we ask our actors to bring it for shows. We also have all of these hats on display, but those are not even half of our hats because if you come down here into one of these cabinets, we have a whole bunch of different stuff, including pirates and swords and stuff like that. This is another area that we store some of our props, but these props are more costume props. So instead of being something like a telephone, they're going to be something like a shield that somebody carries and wears as a costume piece. We also store all of our makeup and hair stuff in here, all of our necklaces, all of our accessories, and pretty much anything that you can think of that might relate to costuming is going to be stored in here. We have this big rolly cart thing, and this is how we hang costumes for shows. So if we were to need some costume, I'm just going to pull one out, we would take it out, we would hang it on this, and then we would label it for the character that it was for. So if we had this out for Ava Strella, and she was playing a character called Mercutio, we would put on there a piece of tape that says Ava Strella, Mercutio, so that we know which hanger goes to which outfit and which outfit goes to which actor. Back in the back of the classroom, this is a new addition to our classroom. It has all kinds of stuff like all of our nails and hammers and anything small that we need to keep locked up is going to be in here. Also where our paint shirts are. As you walk around, you see the window with all of my plants in them. And these cabinets have a variety of different things in them. I'm just going to pick a couple to show you. So in here, we have all of our sewing things. So for stagecraft, if we have time, we do a little bit of a sewing lesson. And this is where all of that stuff is stored. We also have our paints in here. And so if we just need a random paintbrush with some blue paint, we're just going to come in here and grab it really quick. Over here you see our rubber mallets. That's how we close our paint cans. These sinks are where we wash all of our supplies. After we paint, we wash our paints out here, and then we also throw everything away over in our trash can. This big calendar that you see here is where I post all of our schedule things for outside of school. So if we have something like a field trip, that'll be listed there, but it's also where all of our rehearsals are listed for each of our shows. As you keep scrolling around the room, you see these big carts. They are not going to be here for long. These are just so that I can put them up and use them for filming whenever we do online classes, but they also have some different things that need to be sorted into our cabinets. We've got all of these cabinets that also have storage, but very important to note that you should not be in a cabinet unless I tell you to, because some of the stuff in there are things that are for specific classes, and we don't want you getting into those. Keep scrolling over and you see my desk. This is where you'll come. If we have to have a conference, you'll come sit at one of these chairs and we'll talk about whatever we need to talk about. But you will see me back at my desk a lot of times or out in the classroom, walking around and helping. Up above our board, if you guys remember on our syllabus, there was the actor's toolbox. These are just those phrases put so that everybody can see. This is something that we live by, so it's very important to me that you guys are able to see those on a regular basis. We've got our whiteboard, obviously, and over on the side is where I'll be posting different objectives for the day when we are in person. All of these down here are different shows that have gone on in the district, and we also, above our cabinets over on the other side, have all of the shows that we have done over the past 4 years at CST. Keep walking past our board and you will see this bookshelf. This is where I keep all of our scripts, our monologue books, everything that is accessible to students we put here. Anything that you might need for a class project where you're doing a duet scene can be found here, or I will have it posted on the Synergy so that you guys have access to that as well. But we do have a really great selection of different plays, as well as some that I have kept back because they're just like more professional or a little bit older. But if you're interested in anything like that, let me know and I will get you one of these scripts.